Friends and family and tennis players. He has taught generations the game of tennis. I am probably one of his most notable failures as a student. My non-existent tennis game has nothing to do with the fact that he's the one that tried to teach me. We are surrounded by people at this university who have, as Dr. Gaines often says, who come and stay, and that makes a difference. The plaque on the wall bears witness to this, and it says pretty much what this day is about. Some coaches' careers are defined by their numbers, wins, championships, and longevity. And David Elliott has all of those. In his 39 seasons as head tennis coach at Harding from 1975 until 2013, Elliott won 1,123 matches and 10 conference championships. His teams and players are perennially ranked regionally and nationally. Other coaches' careers are defined by their impact, and David Elliott hit the mark here as well. He helped his players grow in tennis and in life. He mentored Harding coaches in all different sports, helping guide them through difficult times and situations. His presence at Harding sporting events encouraged student athletes to perform at their best. As a teacher, he introduced tennis and other sports activities to hundreds of Harding students. It is for this unique combination of success and influence that we dedicate this tennis facility to David Elliott, dated today. There's so much here to celebrate, so many years of incredible influence and good work in this area. And we are glad that you are here to help us dedicate the Coach David Elliott Tennis Complex. And now Greg Harnden has some remarks.
I'm really surprised that Coach Elliott showed up. If you ask his daughters about even showing up to the wedding, you know, that was a chore. So I just appreciate him being here. I wish he was sitting here because I'm talking to you and he's hiding over here. But certainly a great privilege for me to be part of honoring Coach Elliott this afternoon. Of course, when we say Coach Elliott, we know Coach Elliott is Coach E. He's not Coach Elliott. And he's probably, other than Governor Beebe, he's probably the most well-known non-Harding White County person. And if you're Thackerland or if you're McDonald's, whatever, and you're talking about him, you just say Coach. You know, if you say that in the Gaines Athletic Center, we all turn our heads. But to everybody else, Coach is Coach Elliott, and that's how everybody knows him. I've known Coach E since we were in school together back in the 60s, but we really became good friends when I came to Harding 31 years ago. In the athletic department, he takes credit for most of our jobs. I was coaching Harding Academy for 2 years, and we were scrimmaging in the roads against a college team, and he brought Dr. Ulrey in there, and they were just watching and everything, and I got the job like a month later, so you know, he took credit for that. He was up at the NEA tournament in Jonesboro for the basketball tournament, and Coach Morgan was there, and he was the head coach at West Texas at that time, and Coach E came back to Harding, started telling everybody about him, and the next year Coach Morgan was our head men's basketball coach. And he probably got me the AD job, but I didn't know about that. But anyway, he takes credit for Coach Huck and all of us. We could easily just spend this time roasting Coach E. I mean, you're talking about a guy that we could get all over. Mainly because, as Coach Morgan says, there's never been anybody created like Coach E. He's just so unique, and through the years, a group of us, and I think this started back with maybe Coach Lloyd and you, we would go to lunch, and it developed into 5, 6 of us quite often, and it really was kind of like an episode of Seinfeld where we would talk about nothing. Coach E would educate us on if you'd run over a turtle on a hot pavement and kill it, its heartbeat would continue for 24 hours. And, you know, but we'd talk hours about that. I-30 runs from Little Rock to Dallas, and it kind of runs in an angle. But I-30 is an even number, so it's an east-west interstate. Well, Tony Woodruff was from Nashville, Arkansas. So we would argue with Coach E and look at a map, was Nashville north or west of I-30? I mean, we had these ridiculous conversations that he even tried to convince us all the time why a three-wheeler was safer than a four-wheeler. And the last thing I'll mention is when Coach Elliott was helping me in women's basketball, we were at Siloam Springs. Angie, you'll probably remember this, but we still argue about this. And all of a sudden I turned around, the official stopped the game and gave Coach Elliott a technical foul, and I looked like, you know, what are you doing here? And he said, no, it was leaf outs, you know, and so he still blames this on leaf outs. Was it Lee?
It was Lee.
Oh, it was Lee. Okay. Anyway, that's enough of that, and I'll let Coach Morgan add to any of those things. You know, what an accomplishment for someone to work 50 years at the same place. And he started in 1969. He's been at Harding now. This is his 50th year. Not only did he coach and teach, but was and still is Harding's biggest athletic fan. Now, I'll probably have to have a disclaimer there with Dr. Gaines because he would argue with me on that. So I'll exempt the presidents and the athletic directors, but he knows everybody's players, he knows the results, he knows the standings, he knows their ups, he knows their downs. When we were in the Gaines Athletic Center, all our offices were in there. We were in each other's office all the time, just kidding, encouraging, and learning. Coach Elliott was right there with Coach Lloyd in the early years of being ahead of their time as far as the mental aspects of coaching. And I learned so much from both of them. It was in my third or fourth year of coaching the women's basketball team that he volunteered to be my assistant coach in women's basketball, and he did so for many years with no pay while he was still the head tennis coach. The hours he put in, especially in recruiting players like Bridget Benson, I don't know if he missed any of her games, he missed a bunch of tissues, but he didn't miss Bridget, were so valuable in creating our success. Not only did he help me 7 days a week, he spent a lot of time just taking care of our players in terms of counseling and advising and just being a second dad on campus. And of course, when you're a second dad, then your athletes also give you a hard time. And I'll never forget when we were in California and we went to Disneyland. We were playing 3 games out there, and I don't know, Angie, who it was. It was probably Cindy Camp. But we were getting ready to get on the log ride, and Cindy said, Coach E, you got to sit on the front row because that way you won't get wet. When he came back in and he was drenched, he didn't speak to them for 3 days. But it's obviously something we remember and shows they really loved him. By the way, when you look at the plaque and you talk about his record, that is not his best percentage record. I had to miss a game for a wedding when we were in Florida. So Coach E coached that game and won. So he was 1-0 in women's basketball and had a perfect record. And he reminds me that often as well. When I became athletic director, David continued to be someone I could always bounce things off of. He always gave me good counsel. He obviously was Mr. Tennis at Harding, and Coach Redding will address most of that. He was a great player, great coach as seen in the program. The influence he had on his athletes was tremendous. It is awesome how many international student athletes he brought to Harding that became Christians, married Christians, and now are leaders in their church. And of course, we can't forget Lynn and Becky and Tish and Amy, and thank you so much for giving us your husband and your father. David Elliott has become one of my best friends, and I could think of no more deserving to receive such an honor. And speaking on behalf of so many people, we really love you and appreciate what you've done for Harding.
Coach Arndon, I didn't think you'd ever shut up. I can say that because he's no longer my boss. You all must know, those of you who made the decision to put this name on the building, that you just made my job a lot harder. It's not like he doesn't already call me to tell me that the windscreens are down, to call me to tell me that there's mud on the courts, call me to tell me that there's a hole in the net, call me to tell me that there's some guys in the back courts not wearing shirts. It just has become a lot harder now that his name is on the building. So thank you. But what a special day this is for all of us. And to be roasting, I mean honoring, a mentor, a coach, and a man I love. When I began school here as a student athlete 40 years ago, this coming fall, I remember Coach E looking much different than he does today. He had this thin, wispy blonde hair. He had this nice athletic build. He had this pearly white smile. And he had this seemingly permanent natural tan. He looked like he belonged in Southern California or South Florida. Really, he was a pretty good-looking man for someone I considered old 4 decades ago. I was told when I arrived on campus in 1979 that the previous year he had run over 3,000 miles. He ran in the mornings, he ran a lot at noon, he ran at nights. I've even been told stories of how on road trips he would ask to be let out of the van miles and miles from the destination so he could run the rest of the way in. Is that true?
A lot of truth to it.
So from 1979 up until just recently, my one question had always been, how crazy is this guy? But now, from a totally different perspective, having coached a few years and having sat through just a minute fraction of the matches he has, but experiencing much of the same incredibly disabling nervous energy, my question has changed. Now I ask, why didn't you just keep running? What gave you the motivation to actually turn around and run back? Well, the answer to that question has to involve the number 1,123, at least as part of the answer. Coach E was and is one of the most competitive men I've ever been around. Much can be said of his career 1,123 coaching wins. He was a master at preparing his players for matches, especially big matches. He always seemed to say or do the right thing to motivate his players for optimal performance. As one of his former players, I like to think that my fellow teammates and I did our fair share of listening to him to help him reach the rare milestone that he has. But now, as a coach, specifically as a coach who has to come in and follow in his huge footsteps, I'm not at all pleased. You see, I too am competitive, and I've done the math. I figured that if I can average 28 wins a year during my coaching career, and I think that is realistic, I will be able to catch and surpass Coach E by the time I'm Dr. Gaines's age. But I suspect the real reason why we are all here today to honor this man is not because of the number of wins he has racked up in his coaching career, but because of the number of people he has impacted for the kingdom of God while wearing tennis shoes, shorts, and warm-ups. Those who played for him, like me, those who coached with him, like Coach Harnden, and those who've hunted, fished, golfed, or eaten with him, like Coach Morgan, or those who've attended any HU sporting event with him, like probably everybody else here today. He has truly shown us a unique side of God that we might not otherwise have seen without knowing his servant, Coach E.
I don't know where to begin. Certainly I want to thank Harding for allowing me to work here all these many years. Dr. Gaines hired me, and Dr. Alry was the athletic director then, and he gave me my first job as a tennis coach here. I want to thank all the coaches that are here, most of our staff, if not all's here, that have been a good influence on me, an encouragement, and I think one of the greatest things we have going here is the cooperation among all of our sports. And I think every coach truly cares about every other program and embraces it in every way. Certainly want to thank Coach Harnden for being the athletic director through much of my coaching career and motivating me to be the best I could be and to learn new NCAA rules and all those things. And of course, Coach Morgan, who some say I got him his job, but anyway, we've been very good friends for a number of years. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my dad, who I think instilled in me the determination to be the best you can be. My wife, my mom, who's here, my daughters, my granddaughter, and my grandsons, both here. I appreciate you being here as well. I want to mention two people that probably had the greatest influence on my coaching, and they're both here. Coach Barden, who taught me more than you'll ever know about how to deal with kids. And Coach Lloyd, the same, as well as how to coach. And I followed them. I watched what they did. I agreed with almost all that they did and tried to implement that into the sport of tennis. Of course, Coach Barden was, in my opinion, the greatest high school coach in the history of Arkansas. And Coach Lloyd ranks as one of the best track coaches, period. And I watched and observed so much of their coaching techniques, and I tried to do that. Lost my notes there. I tried to do that with my opponents. Anybody I could learn from, I made every effort to try to see how that all went about. And certainly I need to thank the great players that I had. Coach Redding's here, Charles Gaines is here, Freddie Marsh, who I played with, Raymond Kelly, who I played with. I'm sure there's some others I can't see, but thanks to all of you for putting up with me and giving me a chance to coach and try to motivate you and try to get the best out of you. I don't know if I've forgotten anybody or not, but I appreciate this very much. I found out about it. Actually, my cousin called me last Thursday, maybe, after it hit out, and he said, "Congratulations, John Wood." There you are. Anybody else? Any other tennis players I coached that I didn't? Oh yeah, Brad, I'm sorry. And Reese, there's Reese Lloyd. Okay. Lynn Dixon, my roommate and my teammate, and the guy that taught me how to water ski and all that. I taught him how to fish, but anyway. And all of you that have meant so much to Harding, I can only say thank you. But anyway, Thursday I didn't get through with that little story, and I'll shut up. My cousin called me and said, "Congratulations," and I thought, hadn't played in a golf tournament lately, hadn't done anything that I knew of, and I kind of hesitated a minute, and he said, "You don't know?" And I said, "Well, I don't guess. I don't know what I don't know." And he told me that, and then of course I guess it already hit the wires. Coach Harnden kept it from me, and Coach Morgan. They hinted at something that I had to be here for the match today, way back. But anyway, thanks to all of you, and I really appreciate it.